Started with the prayer and so thank you Jaishankar ji, and just a brief introduction. Uh, Jaishankar ji studied under Pujya Swamiji in Anakatti, took the entire 3-year course, and then Swamiji has asked him to start an ashram in Tirunelveli district, and he is building an ashram, and the goal is to teach Vedanta to interested students there. And also in the beginning, he was also caretaker of Aim for Seva for a little while, for a few years in the beginning. But now he is a Vedanta teacher and taking care of a lot of activities in the ashram there. And they have a Goshala, they have a mandir there. And so slowly they are building up that place in southern state of India. So with that, right now he is traveling. He'll be here until 22nd. He still continues as an IT professional, working from India. But so we had one satsang last week with our Michigan satsang group, and this is a follow-up. Premji coordinates that satsang, and we have been doing that for the last 20 years now. And so he requested the topic of Maya and manifestation. So let's get going. So Jaishankar ji, you can start with the prayer and then go from the topic.
Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So today we'll be discussing Maya. This Maya term is very crucial to understand properly. And without Maya, we cannot actually establish Advaita also. But the word Maya or Mayavadi is used even in a derogatory sense also. Mostly the Dvaitins, Vishishtadvaitins and others, they call the Advaitins as Mayavadi. In fact, Shankara is kind of abused as a Mayavadi or a Prachanna Bauddha and all that, because the Buddhists also talk about Maya. But there is a big difference in the way we understand Maya and how the Buddhists use it. And also what we have to remember is Advaitins and Shankara, the Sampradaya which we come in, we are really Brahmavadins. Okay, so we are only interested in establishing the Satyatvam of Brahman. That's why even when we talk about Advaita, we say that it can even be expressed in half a verse, correct? Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. That's all is the teaching. Even there, Brahma Satyam is the main thing for us. Brahman, which is Satyam, means, but what about the world we are perceiving? We are perceiving an empirical world which has to be explained. So that explanation, how do we go about giving? Because the valid question is, just because we perceive something, can we take it as the truth, or it has some truth in it? The Dvaitin in fact gives an inference. He says Jagat Satyam. Okay, we say Brahma Satyam. They say Jagat also is Satyam. Correct? They say Jagat Satyam. Why? Drishyatvat. Because we see it. Because we perceive it. It is truth. And they say Ghatavat. Like even a Ghata or whatever objects which you perceive in this world. Since you are able to do transactions with them, Vyavahara with them, they have to be true. That is the Dvaitin's argument. He says Drishyatvat Satyam. But the Advaitin in fact uses a very interesting inference. He says Jagan Mithya means Jagat is a appearance. Okay, Mithya means a false appearance, an appearance which is false, we can say. So we are not denying the perception. Understand that once we say it is an appearance, appearance means it is available for perception. Otherwise, we cannot even say that it's an appearance, correct? So Jagan Mithya, but what is the hetu? What is the reason for saying that? Drishyatva. We also give the same reason, saying Drishyatvat Mithya. Why? How you can say that means Swapnavat, like even Swapna, we do see the Swapna Jagat. The entire space-time is available for cognition, but just because we are able to perceive it, we cannot say that it is Satyam. Or even like Rajju Sarpa, so many other examples we can give, analogies we can give, to say that just because you perceive something, it need not be real. The reality of something can only be established after you analyze it, correct? Without vichara, just because you see something, we cannot say it is real. The reality is something different. In fact, that is why one more argument also the Dvaitins make is that if you interpret the Veda as teaching Advaita, then the Vaidika Pramana goes against the Pratyaksha Pramana, correct? They put an argument like that. Because the very Lakshana of a Pramana or a characteristic of a means of knowledge is that whatever it reveals should not be negated by anything else, correct? Then it is not even knowledge. If something is negated, it is Badhitam. Means it has been negated, means it becomes erroneous cognition. So whatever the Veda reveals cannot be disproved or negated by any other means of knowledge. Now if you say Jagan Mithya, or even if you say Advaitam is Satyam, but Dvaita is perceived, perception is going against whatever the Veda is revealing. So essentially you are making Veda into a apramana. This is the kind of argument the others are making against the Advaitin. Even here, what is the answer of Advaitin is, actually the Veda is not being contradicted by any other perception or inference. Why? Because perception is only reporting to you what is appearing, correct? Perception, sense perception is not a means of knowledge with reference to the reality or unreality of anything. You understand the argument? We don't deny the perception, but what we say is, just because you perceive something, that itself cannot be a ground for saying whether something is real or unreal. So what we say is only the Veda can come and tell us whether the world is real or unreal. The sense perception does not establish that. The sense perception is just reporting to you the sensory stimuli, but that does not establish the reality or even the very nature of all the objects which we see. So we say that, in another way if we put it, the sense perception is only showing us all the qualities or dharma. But what is the nature of the dharmi? That cannot be revealed by the sense perception. It is not even revealing that. So when you look at based on dharma, there is no Advaita, there is no Aikya. Because whenever we are teaching Advaita, we are using the Mahavakya, correct? We say Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi. All this teaching we are doing. This Mahavakya itself is basically an equation. Now, any equation makes sense only if the two sides of the equation are apparently different, correct? Nobody gives an equation 1 equal to 1. It is meaningless. You don't have to give an equation saying 1 is equal to 1. At least you have to say 4 minus 3 equal to 3 minus 2 or something like that, correct? Both sides should be apparently different, but you should arrive at the identity. Now, how do we arrive at the identity when we are saying Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi? Because the Brahman's qualities, as revealed by the Veda, is that it's Jagat Karanam. Brahman is Sarvajnaha, Sarvashaktiman. And the Jiva need not be even revealed by Veda. We all know we are Alpashaktiman, Alpajnaha. So if you look at the Dharma, there is no equality, in fact. That is a given. We are not denying that. But what we say, where is the identity? The identity is only when you see the Dharmi. The Dharma are all different. The qualities are different, or the so-called qualities which are really not there. The qualities themselves are only superimposed. So we'll come to that. But what we are saying is the differences in the qualities or Dharma is fine. But the Dharmi, if you look at it, there is no difference. It is the same Chaitanyam, which is appearing as the Jiva, which is appearing as Ishvara also. So, the Dharmi is one and the same, therefore there is identity. Now, this can be easily understood even in the case of a simple usage like Soyam Devadatta. Correct? We say this is that Devadatta. In fact, many people have seen me in college. I look totally different. So now they see me and they have to say this is that Jaishankar. But when they say that this is that Jaishankar or this is that Devadatta, the Devadatta who is qualified by that time is totally different, because that Devadatta had black hair, no beard, was 20 kilos less, all these things, or 20 kilos more in my case. But the Devadatta who is there now is having white hair, long beard, looks different totally. That means the Dharma is different. The Dharma of that Devadatta and Dharma of this Devadatta are totally different. But still we can say this Devadatta is that Devadatta, correct? That means we are actually bringing in an identity there. How can we understand the identity? Means even in normal Vyavahara, we remove the Dharma away, but the Dharmi is the same, correct? It was the same Devadatta. Even then, as a person, the Dharmi is different from all the Dharma. Even though the Dharma may be different, the Dharmi is the same. So this is how we are establishing the identity. And the same thing you have to use in the case of Mahavakya also. But in all these things, even then one person may say, okay, you take away the dharmas, the dharmi is the same. Even in Gita also Bhagavan says, correct? That Kaumaram, Yavanam, Jara, and all that, he in the second chapter itself, the person is the same, even though you were the young person, you were in fact the child, correct? Kumara, then Yavanam, then even old age also, I am the same. I was young, I am an adult, I am an old person, I is same. Like that, even one more birth also you will get. He says, Tata Dehantara Praptihi. So like this, the I keeps on going. It is the same, that is the dharmi. But the dharma of the body, etc., keeps on changing. But in all these things, the dharma also is real, dharmi also is a real, like that. Still people can argue. Even though they accept Soyam Devadatta is fine, but Devadatta's dharmas were real at that time. Devadatta's dharma are real even now. Similarly, Ishvara is Sarvajnaha, Sarvashaktiman, everything is total there. And Jiva is Alpajnaha, Alpashaktiman, everything is limited here. these differences are real. Even though you may say that essentially they are same, like saying wave and ocean are nothing but water, correct? We can give all these analogies. But still, the differences are real. Like this, they can say. So then how do we address all these things? That is where Maya has to come in, correct? Without Maya, we cannot establish the Advitiyatvam. So the term Maya itself, even though others accuse us as being Mayavadi and all that, it is not an invention of Shankara. Understand that. It is right there in the Upanishad. So, for example, there is even in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which we are having classes. So there is Indro Maya Bihi Pururupo Iyate. Correct? Indraha. Here Indra is not Devendra. Indra is Brahman only, is also referred to as Indra. So the Brahman with this through the Maya. Okay, Maya Bihi also plural. Pururupaha iyate means what? Puru means Bahu. Bahurupaha iyate. He attains many different forms through Maya or through Mayas, because it is a plural here. Maya Bihi is there. Then Shvetashvatara Upanishad also is there. It says Mayantu Prakritim Vidyat Mayinam tu Maheshwaram. Correct? The Prakriti is Maya. Know this Prakriti as Maya, and the wielder of Prakriti or the Mayavi or Mayinam, Mayinaha is Maheshwara, Ishvara. So Ishvara is presented as the wielder of Maya or the Mayavi, the magician, kind of a word you can use. Now again, this kind of usage is also done in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, if you take Gita 4th chapter, how does Bhagavan start? Bhagavan says that Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha. Already is saying this yoga was started by Vivasvata Manu, and then from there is a Rajarshi Parampara is there, and that's what I am teaching you also. I taught Manu the same yoga I am teaching you. Then Arjuna asks a question. Arjuna says, see, Vivasvata Manu was so long back. But you are there right now here. How can you could have teached Vaivasvata Manu? Because you were born just now, correct? You are Devaki Sutta. How can you be teaching this to me and teaching this to Vivasvan also? He says, Aparam Bhavato Janma, Param Janma Vivasvataha, like that. So your Janma is right now, but Vaivasvata Manu was born long back. How did you teach him? Katham etad vijaniyam tvamadav proktavaniti, he says. How do I know that you only taught Vaivasvata Manu also? Then Bhagavan says, he now says, what lot of Janmas have gone for both of us. I know all of them. Bahuvine Vyatitani Janmani Tavacharjuna and all that. Then immediately next he says, very, very important verse for us to understand. He says, Ajopisan Avyayatma Bhutanam Ishwaropisan Prakritim Swamadhishtaya Sambhavami Atma Mayaya, he says. Okay, so the word Maya is also used by Bhagavan here. He uses it as Atma Maya, one's own Maya, correct? My Maya. And also see the interesting things here. He says, Ajaha Apisan. Even though I am unborn, that means nothing really is born. I am unborn. I am the reality. Nothing is really born from me because I am Ajaha. Even the Shvetashvara Upanishad also uses this. Ajam Ekam Lohita Krishna Varnam, like that. There is a verse in the Shvetashvara Upanishad also, where the unborn is shown as that which is born, correct? Or you take Purusha Sukta. We chant Purusha Sukta, correct? In the Purusha Sukta also, it is said that that which is aja, that which is unborn, becomes many. So how can the unborn be born as many? Even while it is born as many, it is still unborn. That's why he says ajaha api san. Okay, here Bhagavan says ajopi san avyayatma also. Avyayatma means, okay, it was unborn, but why cannot it change? Correct? There can be some change, parinama. That's why Bhagavan immediately says avyayatma also. Avyayatma means that there is no vyaya. Correct? There cannot be any change or any kind of change. In fact, avyaya means basically it is not unchanging and unborn. Not only unborn, but unchanging. In fact, Satyam itself should be unchanging. Then only it is Satyam. If you take the Taittiriya Upanishad Bhashya, Bhashyakara, how does he even define Satya? He says, Yadrupena yen nishchitam bhavati, tadrupena tan nav vyabhicharati iti Satyam. So once you have determined this is in this form or of this nature, it should never change from that. Then only it is Satyam. So if you say Atma is unborn, it is unborn only always. It can never be born. Okay, so that's why this ajaha api san avyayatma, the Atma which never changes, which never declines, and also being bhutanam ishvaraha api san, means the one who is the Lord of all the beings, and keeping the prakriti under one's own control. Prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavami atma mayaya. But still I am born. I am there as this Krishna avatara and all that. So here Avataravada also we can use this verse to understand. But in a larger manner, the entire creation also is like this. Because nothing is really born. Whatever is born is only name and form. That's what Vacharammanam Vikaro Namadeyam Ritika Ityeva Satyam. In the Chandogya also, the Upanishad is very clear. All this is only name, form, function, all these things you can say. But the substance is the same. Nothing has really been born. Whatever is there as it is. But whatever you think as birth and creation and all that, it is all only Maya. So the word Maya can be looked upon also as a Ishvara Shakti. Okay, it is also called Devatma Shakti in Shvetasutra Upanishad again. It is called Devatma Shakti. It is like the Shakti of the magician. The magician has a certain power to create a sleight of hand or whatever, correct? Some trick where the magician is making something appear out of thin air. Now for the magician itself, it is not magic. Understand that. Magician has full knowledge about the reality of the appearance which the magician is making appear to others. That is why Bhagavan here says, Prakritim swam adhishtaya. I am having all this under my control. It is my Maya. It is under my total control. But for others, for those who are seeing this Maya, it is all, they don't know the reality of that, correct? So if you are seeing the magic, you think that it's all real because you have no idea about it. It is appearing to be real. There is an appearance. Even in magic, nobody denies the appearance of whatever you are seeing. But you cannot say it is real. That's why it is magic, correct? So the word Maya can be used as an Ishvara Shakti in a very technical sense, or it can be simply used as a magic also. Okay, because the whole world appearance is really like Ishvara's magic only. For the Jiva, it appears to be true because you are also part of the Maya Jagat only. Being within that, it is not easy for the Jiva to recognize that it is all only an appearance. But Ishvara is never part of this because Ishvara is anyway Sarvajnaha. And being Sarvajnaha, Atma Jnanam also is included in that, correct? So Ishvara has no delusion. Like even the magician has no delusion about the magic the magician is creating. It's all only an appearance. So Bhagavan is not deluded in any way. He knows I am unborn still. Even though this world appearance is there, nothing is really born. So from the standpoint of the Srishti, you can say, okay, I am seeing this. But from one's own standpoint, nothing is born. Nothing has come about. It's not even the same order of reality. That is the point we have to understand when we say this, it is all mithya. So the important point here is, why are we even talking about creation? Means we have to talk about, because creation is something everybody is encountering. Even the teaching itself is taking place only within the creation. So the creation has to be accounted for. So how do we account for the creation? By showing that the one reality, this infinite, limitless consciousness, is presented as Jagat Karanam. So the Karana Karya Prakriya we use. So the Jagat Karanam, when we say, Brahman by itself is not even Jagat Karanam. That's what we have to understand. From its own standpoint, Brahman is not Ishvara. But Ishvara is Brahman. We have to be very clear about that. Ishvara, as soon as we say, Maya also is there. You cannot separate out Ishvara and Maya. The Maya Shakti only makes Brahman Ishvara. But it is not like Brahman plus Maya is Ishvara and all that. Like that, the understanding should not be there. There is no plus here. Plus means then there may be Advaita Hani. Advaita will go away. There is no real plus. It is a way of looking at it, you can say, maximum. Correct? It is all Upadhi. The Maya makes Brahman into Jagat Karanam or Ishvara. And the Maya itself makes Ishvara Sarvajnaha also. Because Ishvara does not require any mind to know anything. The Maya Upadhi itself makes Ishvara into Sarvajnaha, Sarvashaktiman, all the things. The individual is limited because the individual's Upadhi is mind, and mind itself is limited Upadhi. And through that, if you want to know something, there is a mental process is required, correct? There is the manovritti is required and all that. But Ishvara's jnanam is not like that. Even before the mind is born, Ishvara is already Sarvajnaha only. The Sarvajnatvam of Ishvara is because of Maya only. Maya as a Shakti. Without that, there is no Ishvara. That is why even Kalidasa says, Vagartha viva sampriktau, Vagartha pratipattaye, Jagatah pitarau vande, Parvati parameshwarau. When Kalidasa says that, he says, Jagatah pitarau. Pitarau means Mata pitarau, mother and father, or Parvati parameshwarau. Parvati and Parameshwara are non-separate like word and its meaning. Vagartha viva sampriktau. Okay, they are connected, or they are non-separate like the word and its meaning. Because as soon as you say a word, it is not a word unless you know the meaning, correct? Otherwise, it is just a sound. When does it become a word? Any sound is not a word. Word means only when the meaning flashes, it is really a word, correct? And you cannot separate the word from the meaning. Because the word has that Shakti, we say, in fact. It has the Shakti, it has the power to reveal the meaning, correct? Then only it's a word. So the word cannot be separated from the power to reveal, and the power to reveal means you cannot separate it from the object which it is denoting also. It's all one and the same. Like that, whenever we say Ishvara, Jagat Karanam, Bhagavan, means you cannot separate Bhagavan from the Shakti. Only when you look at it through the Shakti, that Brahman can be called as Ishvara. By itself, Brahman is Brahman only. In fact, Bhashyakara in one place says there is no need of any word also. You don't have to use any word. Even Atma, the word we use, even the word Atma is not required, because anyway this reality is self-revealing and self-existent reality. You don't have to indicate it or denote it through any word itself. All the words also we use only provisionally for teaching purposes. Once you have understood, there is no need of a word also. So here, this Maya is very important for us, because Maya, only through Maya we understand Ishvara, and only by presenting Brahman as the Jagat Karanam Ishvara, the prakriya is that this entire creation then becomes karya, correct? In the karana karya prakriya, the karya becomes mithya. The karya is only nama rupa. It's only name and form. It doesn't have any existence of its own. It doesn't have any substance. So the entire srishti becomes name and form, mithya, and a different order of reality. And that is how we understand the truth of Brahman, the reality of Brahman. Because once we understand that the srishti is mithya, the status of being a karana also becomes mithya. Understand that. First we present Brahman as Jagat Karanam and show that everything, the entire universe, the cause of that is Brahman. By showing that the entire universe being an effect, it has become mithya, an appearance. And because the whole world is mithya, the karanatvam which we have imputed on Brahman also has now become mithya, correct? It is equally of the same order of reality only. This way you negate the entire thing. Finally, it's all neti neti. Understand? Because the Vedantic teaching, even in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Bhashyakara makes a reference to it. Even in Mandukya Karika Bhashya also he talks about it. Finally, it is about negating only. Because you have to do apavada. So when we initially talk about Maya, and through Maya we are making Brahman as Jagat Karanam, why we are doing that? In fact, that is what is called Adhyaropa. Okay, Vedanta itself, what is the methodology of teaching which we are using? The methodology of teaching is deliberate superimposition, which is called Adhyaropa, and negation, which is Apavada. So the deliberate superimposition can be done only by oscillating Maya. Without Maya, there is no superimposition or Adhyaropa. The Adhyaropa part is saying that Maya, Brahman has now become Jagat Karanam, and this entire Jagat now becomes Karya. And since it is Karya, it is Mithya. And also, since the Karyam has become Mithya, the Karanatvam of Brahman also becomes Mithya. In this way, everything is negated finally. And what remains is the negator's Swarupa alone, correct? Because you can negate everything. After negating everything also, the negator can never be negated, correct? The very nature of the negator is Brahman, and it's not separate from you. So that is what is to be understood here. So for all these things, Maya as a idea is very, very important. So not only in the 4th chapter, if you see in Gita, Bhagavan again talks about Maya in the 7th chapter also, correct? So there is a verse, Daivi Hyesha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Duratyaya. Okay. So you can go and refer to that also. In the 7th chapter, I think around 10th verse or something. So he says this Maya is a Daivi, correct? Daivi means it's like a Shakti only, correct? And it is also Gunamayi, because the Maya is understood to be having this Triguna, Trigunatmika, Prakriti. That's why even in the Shveta Shvetara, Mayantu Prakritim Vidyat it says. And Prakriti itself is understood as having Sattva, Rajas, Tamas and all that. And then based on that only we have our own Srishti Prakriya, correct? Because Sattva, Rajas, Tamas are all the Maya itself is composed of all these things. And again, when we talk about the Panchabhutas, again we take the Sattva, Rajas, Tamas aspects of that, and only we say that the Sukshma Sharira, the mind is all Sattva aspect, mind and senses. Prana is Rajas. And the actual physical body and the physical world is the Tamas aspect of these 5 Mahabhutas. And there also it is all mixed up. Panchikarana and all we say, correct? So this is our creation model. And all these things are only Maya in the end. Okay, because it all starts with Prakriti, which has these 3 gunas, means that's what even in the Upanishad itself talks about it. Ajam ekam lohita Krishna varnam and all that. So there was one unborn reality, but which had 3 colors. The 3 colors there again refers to the 3 gunas. And from there everything has come. Or even there is in the Shvetashvatara, there is another interesting reference that there is one light which becomes many lights. Correct? Now you take the white light is only one white light, but if you pass it through a prism, it becomes many different colors, correct? It is the same light. The prism is the Upadhi. So there is only one Brahman. But due to the Maya Shakti only, or the Prakriti, this entire Srishti has come out of that one reality. Okay, these kinds of analogies are all presented to us there only to make us understand that. And also Bhagavan says in the Daivi Hyesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameve Ye Prapatyante Maya Metam Tarantite. So this is Duratyaya means what? It is not easy to cross over, correct? This Maya is difficult. It is difficult to cross. It is Duratyaya. And this Maya is my Maya. Okay, Mama Maya, he says. That means it is his Shakti. Devatma Shakti, also the Upanishad said. Same thing Bhagavan is saying in the 7th chapter in Gita. This Maya, my own Maya, it is very difficult to cross. It is like for the onlookers, the magic looks real, correct? It's not easy for them to understand how this magic operates, or that it is just an appearance also. Many people don't get it. But then he says, Mameve ye prapadyanti. Those who want to, or those who are pursuing me alone. Me means there what? It is that the nature of Bhagavan. Correct? What is the Swarupa of Bhagavan? That is what I want to understand. Even if you consider yourself as a Bhakta, without knowing to whom you are doing Bhakti, what kind of Bhakti can you have? Correct? You can have a vague idea that everything, some higher power is there and all that. Most people start out like that, nothing wrong. So, the understanding is that some vague idea is there. Okay, something, some greater power than me is there, so I will pray to that power. And whenever I want something, I am praying. Correct? That Artha Bhakta, Arthati and all, Bhagavan also says. But if you are going beyond that, you would like to know to whom I am really praying. What is the nature of this Bhagavan? Means that nature of that Bhagavan, once you want to know, you become a Jignasu. But Jignasu also is a Bhakta. Artho Jignasur Artharthi Jnani cha Bharatar Shabha, he says. But Jnani to Atmaiva me matam also Bhagavan says. Jnani is not different from me. The nature of Jnani and nature of me are one and the same, and my nature is not something which will come and go. Okay, this also he talks about in that same 7th chapter. He talks about Apara Prakriti and Para Prakriti. Okay. And when he talks about Apara Prakriti, he says it is like 8-fold and all that. There also he says Bhumi, Rapo, Nalo, Nilaha and all that. There is a verse. Okay. So he says all these 5 elements, then Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara, all these 8-fold Prakriti is there. That is Apara Prakriti. Then there is a Para Prakriti is there, he says. And that is the one which is my own nature, he says. And that Para Prakriti only is holding on to everything. It is Dharyate, he says. Dharyate means that which supports, means that which really gives existence to everything. That means that is Satyam. That is the nature. The Para Prakriti is the reality, the apara prakriti is only mithya. So this is also said there. So the words maya, prakriti, all these things are very much used in the Bhagavad Gita. And even he says that maya apahrita jnanaha asuram bhavam ashritaha, and all also he uses a word. So those whose minds have been deluded by this maya, and not only here, he uses these things even in the 18th chapter also. Bhagavan uses that. And in one more verse also is there, Naham Prakashas Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavritaha, he says. So I am covered by this Maya. So from this we also understand that Maya has a covering function, means that is the ignorance. Why do we say that Maya? At a total level we say Maya, but at an individual level we are talking about ignorance or ajnanam, correct? How can we equate these two means? Maya or magic, when you say, those who do not know the reality about that magic, for them that reality is covered by that magic, correct? That covering aspect is there. Yoga Maya Samavritaha is used. Ajnanena Avritam Jnanam also Bhagavan says in the Gita. So the Ajnanam has an Avarana Shakti, and it also has a Vikshepa Shakti, the projection. Both together only make the entire thing, correct? There is a Avarana and there is a Vikshepa. So those who are covered by this Maya means they don't know themselves. Their own reality is covered, and then they are seeing the whole projection and think that they are a jiva in this creation. Okay, like this Maya and Ajnana also is looked upon as one is at a total level. When you refer to it, it is Maya. At an individual level, it is called Ajnana. And the Maya Bihi usage is there in the Upanishad also. It is talked about in plural in one place. In other places like Ajam, Ekam, it is talked about as a singular. So this also is given as some kind of a quotation to prove that even Upanishad in one place talks Maya as many, in other places it talks it as one. Or even Bhagavan is talking about Mama Maya and all, there he is using singular. So when you talk about it as a totality, it is Maya. But when you are talking about from each individual standpoint, it is called Ajnanam. There also you can call it Maya, but from an individual standpoint, it is called as Avidya or Ajnanam. And in both cases, both Avaranam and Vikshepa, both covering and projection, both are there, correct? And so those who are deluded do not recognize this. Okay, then finally in the 18th chapter also he uses Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddesho Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantrarudhani Mayaya. So there is a verse in the 18th chapter also. Yantrarudhani Mayaya Brahmayan. Ishvara is sitting in the heart of everybody. Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. So Ishvara is sitting in the heart of all the beings. And then Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani, he says. Okay, everybody, Ishvara is as though deluding all the people. Okay. So how can Ishvara delude everybody? In fact, more than deluding, if you take, for example, if you take Kathopanishad, correct? So in Kathopanishad, there is a verse is there, Paranchikani Vyatrinat Swayambhuhu Parang Pashyati Nantaratman. So that means how the delusion happens, because by nature all your sense organs are going out, correct? They are attracted to the sense objects. The sense objects are attracting the sense organs, and you are going along with that. Since you have an identity with your own body, mind, sense complex, means you are always going out. And when you are going out like that, you are separate from all the sense objects. That is implied. That itself is as though the Swayambhu there is Ishvara only. Vyatrinat Swayambhu means what? Swayambhu has killed you almost. Okay? By making you go outward towards the sense objects, you are now going away from your Swarupa, which is Ananta, correct? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So that is the delusion which Bhagavan also says here. So all these people are all deluded because I am there sitting in all these people's heart. Okay, I remain in their heart means Hridesha, Hrit or Hridaya is used also for Buddhi in the Shastra. So I am the one who is there in their Buddhi as the Antaryami, Arjuna. I am sitting there and then I cause all the activities because in the presence of Brahman only everything is happening, correct? Sannidhi Matrena and all we say. In the presence of this Brahman only all activities are happening. And when all these activities are happening, what? The Jiva is basically drowning in all these activities. Jiva revolves. Okay. But all this thing is really Maya. Correct? It is all like magic. It is Ishvara's magic. As though like Yantra Rudhani Mayaya, Bhagavan says. So it is like that we all have this horse vehicle and all that we go round and round, correct? Up and down and round and all it goes. So the one who is sitting there has no Swatantra there. Once you sit on that, until the guy stops, that you have to be sitting there. That's all. Nothing is in your control, correct? So the Jiva is something like that. Jiva is not Swatantra. Means Jiva is deluded by the Maya, and then Jiva, the individual, goes along with the Maya only. Because Jiva is totally immersed in all this, in the delusion created by Ishvara's Maya. So this Maya again is used here just to show that it is all not real. That particular word is very important. All the delusion also is really only like magic. By somebody gets deluded by magic, it is like that only. So all the manifestation also, from one standpoint, it all looks real. From the standpoint of the Vyavahara, from the world, it is all there. But from the standpoint of Brahman, there is nothing. It is Ajaha. So that Ajopisan Avyayatma Bhutanam Ishwaropisan verse is very, very important. Or even in the 9th chapter, if you go, correct? Swamiji, Pujya Swamiji used to actually talk a lot about the 9th chapter verses. So there is a Maya Tatamidam Sarvam Jagadavyakta Murtina Matsthani Sarva Bhutani Nachaham Teshu Avastitaha. So first Bhagavan says, I am the one who is pervading everything. Maya Tatamidam Sarvam. Whatever is there here, everything is pervaded by me. Maya Tatamidam Sarvam Jagadavyakta Murtina. And I am Avyakta. I am the reality which is hidden. It is unmanifest. Okay. And he says, Matsthani Sarva Bhutani. All these bhutas are all in me. But I am not in them. Nacham Teshu Avastitaha. Okay, fine. Then immediately next verse, what he says? Nachamasthani Bhutani Pashyame Yogamaiswaram. So immediately he says, nothing is there in me. They are all not there in me. So how can you explain this contradiction? So Pujya Swamiji used to use these two verses to teach Satyam and Mithya. Unless you understand the two different standpoints properly, you cannot understand these two statements because they are coming one after the other, correct? So how can you say all the beings are in me means it is like the clay saying all the parts are in me, correct? All the names and forms are in me. So the cause can say that really, because all the effects are in me. From the standpoint of the effect, you have to say that all the parts are nothing but clay. Or you look at it like this. In your understanding of a clay pot, the clay has to be there, correct? Without the clay being there, you cannot even imagine a clay pot. So in your understanding of any nama rupa, the vastu has to be there. The upadana karanam has to be there. In your understanding of a golden bangle, gold has to be there. Without gold, there is no gold bangle. So you can say all gold jewelry are in gold only. Fine. That is, everything is there in me. Bhagavan says, Matsthani sarva bhutani. Nachaham teshu avastita. Okay, that also he says. So all these things are there in me, but I am not there in any one of them alone, correct? That is fine. In one way, you can understand that. But then, if you look at it from the standpoint of the gold itself, in your understanding of gold, there need not be any bangle or any chain or anything else, correct? Any name and form, any jewelry. When you look at something as gold, it is gold. You can understand gold as it is without bringing in any name and form. When you see like that, you can say that there is nothing in the gold, correct? There is no other name and form in the gold. Gold is as it is. So you can also say, Nachamatstani bhutani. Bhagavan can say that very well, because only when you understand Satyam and Mithya properly, these two statements can be made meaningful. If you don't understand Satyam Mithya correctly, or the different orders of reality which it actually implies, all these things can become confusing. So the entire manifestation of the world which we see, we have to understand it as Mithya, or like magic, Maya. That means it's only an appearance. And whenever we say just appearance, then the reality also we have to seek behind the appearance. And in this case, that reality is only one reality, which is Jagat Karanam Brahma. And to make you understand only, all these things we have to use. These are all, at the end of the day, only devices or methodologies to teach you the one reality. So provisionally only, even the Vyavaharika Satyam, sometimes we use the word also, correct? Paramarthika Satyam, Vyavaharika Satyam. Some people say, how can you say it is Vyavaharika Satyam? If you say Satyam means then there is no Advaita. So all this usage is also only provisional usage. Because you perceive it and you think it is real, we can use Vyavaharika Satyam. But otherwise, you cannot assign any reality to all these things. And even Gaudapada Acharya finally says, there is no bondage, there is no moksha. The Guru Sishya also, everything is only Vyavahara. Understand that. So that is from the other standpoint. So, but the important thing is, any statement which is made in the Shastra, you have to understand from which standpoint it is made. Is it made from the Vyavaharika standpoint, or is it made from the Paramarthika standpoint, or the standpoint of Brahman itself as it is? If you mix it up, then it can become very confusing. Okay, so we should not mix up. Whatever is said from a Vyavaharika standpoint should be understood as it is. And if something is said from the Paramarthika standpoint, like the Brahman is never born, means that's fine. That is because you can never say the rope was really born as a snake, correct? You may have seen the snake, but rope did not create the snake, or rope was never born as the snake. That can never be said. Even while seeing the snake, there was really no snake, only we have to say. So, although we accept the appearance of the world, we cannot give any reality to that. And since it is not real, it is all only Maya. It is all only an appearance. And the Satyam behind the appearance, we have to understand. The main difference between Buddhist and Advaita is that Buddhists say that Maya is there, but without any adhisthana, without any satya to support it. They say only Maya is there, Shunya is there and all that. So they can be called Mayavadi in one way because they just stop with Maya. But for us, Maya is only a way to teach Brahman. So Shankara and all the Advaita Parampara Acharyas, we are all Brahmavadins, and to teach Brahman and the reality of Brahman, we are just using Maya to explain away the appearance of this world. So that is the main thing. So I hope you have got a certain idea about how this Maya itself is not an invention of Shankara. It is all very much the word is used in the Upanishads, and Bhagavan also uses it many times in the Bhagavad Gita. And the meaning of that also is very clear to all of us, I hope. If you have any questions or something, we can have that now.
So it is. So how do we get rid of Maya? By adhyasa, removing the adhyasa.
Correct. The getting rid of Maya means there is no real getting rid. Correct. So if you know the reality of it, then it is gone already. Correct. Only jnanam. Jnanena only you can. This ajnana can be destroyed. Correct. Jnanena tu tadatjnanam yesham nashitam atmanaha. Bhagavan says. So jnana or the knowledge alone is the destroyer of Maya. It's the virodhi. So if you know your own reality, Maya is gone along with that. There is no more Maya. Or Maya is seen as Maya. You have to see Maya as Maya. Correct?
Maya.
What's the origin of the word Maya? We hear somewhere here.
The origin, if you see at it like etymologically, sometimes we say Ya Ma Sa Maya. Like that, there is a saying is there in the tradition. Okay. Ya Ma means that which cannot be measured or that which cannot be analyzed. So we also say Vicharam na sahate. Maya, Vicharam na sahate means what? If you try to measure it or analyze it, you will find that it is not there. That is the beauty.
Doesn't stand inquiry.
It cannot withstand inquiry or analysis. That is why it is Maya.
Another clarification, a little different thing. Like we say Brahma Jagat Karanam or Brahman Jagat Karanam. Is that illustration parallel to saying that sun illuminates the world? Sun doesn't actually illuminate, sun is there, and because of the sun's presence, world or Jagat gets illuminated. Is it the same way as explaining, or the same way to say Brahman Jagat Karanam?
Okay, see, Brahman as Jagat Karanam makes the entire Jagat into Karya, and Karyatvat Mithya and all that. That is the main teaching there. The sun analogy is given for some other purpose. Okay, why it is given is basically the teaching is that there is only one consciousness, correct? Ekameva advitiyam we say. That means there is only one conscious being which is Ananta also, which is limitless, which is the basis for this entire subject-object duality or this entire world. But some people may argue, how can you say there is only one consciousness? There are many sentient beings, correct? I am there, you are there, animals are there, everybody, everything is a conscious, so many things are conscious beings, correct? So how do you explain so many consciousnesses? Because the word consciousness itself can be loosely used even for the awareness which you are having, correct? Many times we say he lost consciousness. Somebody faints, what do you say? He lost consciousness, we say. So consciousness can be used to even mean the ability to react to a particular stimuli, correct? Behaviorally, if you say consciousness, That means if somebody is able to react to your stimulus, or if you are poking somebody and if they are answering you, then you say that person has consciousness. Otherwise, he has become he has fainted, or he doesn't have consciousness and all that. So how do you explain sentiency or awareness in the creation being present in so many beings and still say that there is only one consciousness? If somebody asks like that, for that only the other sun analogy is used. The sun analogy also is used in Bhagavad Gita, correct? Bhagavan in the 13th chapter, I think almost in the end, he says, Yatha prakashayat ekaha kritsnam lokam imam ravihi kshetram kshetri tata kritsnam prakashayati bharata. Okay, that is the verse. So the analogy is what he says, there is one sun, but that same sun alone is appearing in any reflecting media here, correct? There can be thousands of reflecting media. The same sun is manifest in all of them. Similarly, the 13th chapter is about Kshetram and Kshetrajna. But the Kshetras are many, because each body, mind, sense complex is called a Kshetra only. But the Kshetri, Bhagavan says, Kshetrajnam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. There may be n number of Kshetras. Each Kshetra is really a Upadhi, body, mind, sense complex. But in all of them, the consciousness which is manifest is me alone, or only one. The Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma alone is manifest as the consciousness in each and every sentient being. And what is the analogy for that? Sun appearing in so many reflecting media, correct? Even though it is appearing in countless media, sun is still one alone. It cannot be many. So that analogy is basically given to explain away and also to make you understand that there is only one consciousness in spite of seeing so many sentient beings within the creation. Okay. So I hope this helps you.
I have a question, Jaishankarji. So you gave the example of the magician creating the magic. Why even create that magic? So the purpose is to
see. That's what generally, if you ask this why, we jump to the Paramarthika and we can give a simple answer that the why is really not a valid question. Okay, because only if it is real you can ask why. So the why cannot be asked that way. But even if you still maintain the why, then we have to again say that because karma, everybody has to undergo their karma. The why, finally we can give that why answer only to say that karma has to be exhausted and karma is avashyam bhavi and all that. So that way, why Ishvara is creating means Ishvara, either we have to say Leela and all that, otherwise it's just a play, or we have to say because the Jiva has to exhaust the karma and therefore Ishvara has to create and all that. But all these things gives a certain reality to creation. Once you say that creation is not real, then why are you even asking, why did you see a snake on the rope? Means you cannot give a why there, really, correct? Why means again we have to say ignorance only, otherwise. Because you didn't know the reality, you think that Ishvara has created. Once you know your own reality and the Satyatvam of Brahman, then there is no question of asking any why. Because the world is not as real. World did not really come, correct? That which is not really created, how can you even ask why it was created? So all these ways we can answer. Whichever one satisfies you, you take it, okay?
Now I have another. So instead of, in the beginning you said, this plus Brahman plus Maya Shakti. So rather than that, when you say Brahman with the help of Maya Shakti is a manifestation.
Correct. Brahman
includes.
When you have to explain, when you are looking at Brahman from the standpoint of the Srishti, I have to say, then the Maya comes into the picture. Or when you say, when you are looking at the clay from pot, from the standpoint of pot, only the clay is really a karana, correct? But if you look at clay as clay, It is clay, that's all, correct? It is neither, you don't even have to talk about Karana and Karya and all that. So it's all basically a drishti. So there what I am just pointing to say is sometimes the use of words like plus and all may create a certain subtle misunderstanding that there are two entities and all that, correct? I don't want you to think of it as like there are really two entities, like Brahman is there and there is another thing called Maya. Maya and all again is only a way of explaining things away. And it's a certain, we are looking at it from the standpoint of the world, which is anyway we are perceiving. So we have to explain the perception. And to explain the perception, we are saying it is like you are also perceiving like a magic, correct? Just because you are perceiving magic, you cannot say that it is real. And again, the magic itself is a Shakti of the magician, correct? In all these ways, we understand Maya also. So Maya, we are looking at it as a Devatma Shakti, and that Shakti is only creating all this appearance. But once you understand the appearance itself is not real, then along with it, everything else also gets negated. You understand? And whatever is Brahman, Brahman alone remains again. So it is better to not use certain things like this plus, I think, so that there is no confusion there. That's all. But if you understand it clearly, you can use any type of usage. It's up to you.
One more question. You know, this consciousness, it has many names, but we'll stick to consciousness. And then we have a reflecting membrane, which is a mind. And then beyond that, it gets reflected consciousness. I'm sort of trying to put a model in my mind. There's everywhere there is consciousness, and then ultimately has to go through the mind. And when you say reflecting, is it a refraction or reflecting? And then what comes out is a reflecting consciousness, which is the world.
Yeah, see.
And therefore, there's no outside world. It is just the reflection inside the mind, having the original consciousness having passed through the mind.
Yeah, we can see there are different prakriyas are there within the tradition. Okay. So there is a drishti srishti vada also is there. So because you see, the world is there, therefore. If you take a drishti srishti vada approach, then you have to say that everything is only there because it is being perceived. Because it's a very fundamental question. Do we perceive because something is there?
Yeah.
Or do you say something is there because we perceive?
Okay.
Which comes first?
Okay.
Now, from a purely Advaita teaching standpoint, whichever makes sense for you, you can take that. Because finally, we want to establish whatever you see, that is mithya. Okay, that can be established in both ways, I think. But in general, if you see, I don't think the drishti srishti vada is not there in many places. Generally, we accept an Ishvara srishti, and Ishvara srishti, if we accept, then we have to say you are seeing something because it is there, correct?
Yeah.
That prakriya is better, I think, in many ways to explain, or even to explain Jivan Mukti and all that, it is better. Because the same thing, whether if you say Drishti Srishti Vada, then there is a Eka Jiva Vada, it will become. There is only one Jiva then, correct? Jiva is actually projecting the entire world along with Ishvara and all that. And along with the teaching, everything, it's a projection of Jiva, it will become. You can teach Advaita like that also, but somehow I think that doesn't explain many things very clearly. So we stick to a Nana Jiva Vada. That's why there are many Jivas. Once you say Nana Jiva Vada, then you have to say Ishvara Srishti, you have to accept and you have to say that since the Srishti is there, you are seeing it like that. Okay. But in all this also, we have to still explain how you are sentient, correct? That's where we have to see consciousness is manifesting in the mind. Mind itself is not sentient. Mind is still inert. Mind is also not the seer. Consciousness by itself also is not the seer. But the consciousness which manifests in the mind becomes the knower, correct?
Yeah.
The subject. Because the subject-object duality is like that.
And then the reflection, the reflected consciousness is the Jagat. But that it means the Jagat Jagat does not exist. It's all in the mind.
Yeah, you can say that. Because Jagat also is a manifestation of consciousness.
Yeah.
And your mind, in your mind also the consciousness minds through which only you perceive the Jagat. So everything is there in one consciousness. But I won't say it is just there in your mind. That's what I am trying to differentiate. You have to understand that everything is there. The whole space-time is there in one consciousness, which is you.
Yeah.
But that is not mind. In fact, we have to say all the minds are there in you.
Okay. And one more question. In Drishya, we were coming about as a difficult name, Savikalpa Drishya Anuvidya Samadhi. And one is related to Shabda and other is related to Drishya. And there are two are inside and two are outside. So you see the world, but you remove the name and the form. And behind the name and the form is the consciousness.
Correct. So the samadhi, different types of samadhis are talked about in
Five
six types. Basically, to show you that how that your mind can be absorbed in different ways. But the most important for us is to understand that whatever name and form in which your mind may be absorbed in, or there is a laya, finally you have to still understand that behind all that there is only one Satya Vastu, correct?
Yeah.
Satya Vastu, and that is where the final samadhi is that only. Samadhi means samadhiyate asminiti samadhi, like that Bhashyakara also gives a meaning in the Bhagavad Gita itself, into which everything resolves. That is Atma, in fact. Atma itself has a name of samadhi because everything resolves into this Atma only. Each and every cognition, in fact, resolves into this Atma. And that is what, once you are established in that, then that is the Drashtu Swarupa, correct? Drashtu Swarupe Avasanam also we say. Finally, everything has to resolve, or you have to rest on your own Swarupa. And the seer Swarupa, rather than being absorbed in something seen, through that seen, you have to actually go to the nature of the very seer and rest there, or have a laya there.
Okay.
So that is what is pointed out there. Even in those different samadhis, finally Vidyaranya Swami is pointing out that you have to rest in your own Swarupa.
Whether it's inner or outer.
Correct. From outer you have to come back to inner, so-called inner. Finally there is no inner outer, correct? Everything is one.
Okay.
But we proceed from outer, inner and all that, like that.
Okay. Thank you.
So I have one more observation. Now, Pujya Swamiji, he even explicitly has said that he prefers the word manifestation than the word creation.
Correct. Not Pujya Swamiji prefers. This is there in the Bhashya itself.
Bhashya.
Okay. So if you see in many places where the this Srishti Prakriya is there in the Upanishad, Bhashyakara explicitly brings out the point that for us creation is nothing but a manifestation. Because the Advaitins' understanding of Karana Karya itself is like this. What we say, see, there are different opinions about what is a cause and what is an effect. Correct? If you take the Nayayika, The Nayayika is called an Asat Karyavadi. Asat Karyavadi means that is what also normal people think, correct? They say that there was no pot before, there was only clay. Then the potter has created a clay. And when the potter creates the clay, the potter creates the pot. Only when the potter creates the pot has come into existence, we say, correct? That means a pot which was not there has come into existence. That is the normal understanding of everybody. The Nayayika also goes with that. So the Nayayika is called an Asat Karyavadi because he says Karya was not there, then it was totally created newly. There Bhashyakara argues. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad Bhashya also it is there. So our understanding is that which was not there can never come into being. Okay, even in Gita, Bhagavan says, Nasato vidyate bhavaha, na bhava vidyate sataha. Whatever is there can never become non-existent, and whatever is non-existent can never come into existence. This may look like a very silly statement, but it has very big implication. So here also, keeping all this in mind, Bhashyakara, what he says is, all the effects are potentially there in the cause. You understand? Because if the effect is potentially not there in the cause, you will not even start your work. Unless the pot is potentially there in the clay, you will not put, the potter will not put any effort to create the pot, correct? If it is not potentially there, it can never come into existence or into manifestation. That's what we say. So, our understanding is all the effects are already there in the cause, but it is unmanifest. You understand now? It is undifferentiated or unmanifest. And the effort you really put in is really to only make that unmanifest become manifest. You are not creating anything newly. And when one effect manifests, other effects become unmanifest in the same cause. Because a cause can have many effects. When the clay is as powder, the pot is unmanifest. But when the pot is manifest, powder is unmanifest. And again, if you break the pot and make it into powder, pot is unmanifest, but powder has become manifest. You understand? So that's how we look at it. Creation is basically a manifestation of whatever was already potentially there. And destruction is basically something which is manifest becoming unmanifest and going back into a potential form. That's why the Advaitin is called as Satkaryavadi. We are all called Satkaryavadi because we say that Karya is already there, but it is unmanifest. And what you call as creation is nothing but this unmanifest becoming manifest. Okay.
The seed tree example can also be given, right?
You can give that also. Yeah.
Which example?
The seed and the tree.
Okay. But the Sat and Chit was already there. That justification is not there. How do you just that what we don't see, what we don't feel, what we don't experience is already there? How do we? So what we see.
You have to see, that's why that when we talk about all knowledge, in fact, there is a Ghata Bhashyam in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad.
Yeah.
Here extensively Bhashyakara presents different opinions, and then finally he gives the Siddhanta beautifully. So there, one of the arguments which Bhashyakara gives is, it may be not known to us because we have limited knowledge only, correct? But Ishvara has sarvajñatvam. So in that knowledge, all potentialities are also included, correct? That is the real sarvajñatvam. Infinite potential is there. And since that potential is there means all the effects are already there. And whatever is manifesting from there is only a manifestation of whatever was potentially there. Otherwise, he says, Ishvara sarvajñatvam itself cannot be established. If you say that something is totally newly created, then essentially the implication of that is Ishvara is no more sarvajña. You understand the argument what Bhashyakara is making.
So that is an assumption. That Ishvara is a Sarvajnan. It's assumption, right?
It's not an assumption. It's what the Veda is revealing it to us, correct? Veda says Ishvara is Sarvajna.
Okay.
And Sarvajnatvam only, because once you say the world, he knows everything in the world, means Ishvara is Sarvajna. And that means everything it is potentially there. As a human being, we may not know many things. But it's not with reference to us. It is with reference to the Ishvara as being a Sarvajna. Means Ishvara must know everything. But if Ishvara knows, it has to be there, correct? Nobody can know whatever is not there. That's the point.
And then we remove the Ishvara from the landscape.
Then there is only Brahman. We don't talk about anything then. Okay.
It's like Aladdin, goes on the carpet, rises up, and you remove the carpet. One statement I make, some people say this, the Vedanta is pretty close to atheism or communism, right? Is it true?
No, they are all confusing because Advaita Vedanta is very, very theistic in the Vyavahara. So nobody can say there is no Ishvara in the Vyavahara, correct? So again, people are confusing Paramarthika with Vyavahara, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's not correct. They are actually mixing up things.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That was a good discussion. Very good.
Thank you, Jai Shankarji. Thank you so much.
So we'll finish with a prayer.
Yeah.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Satgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.